This is a WKYT podcast.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Victor and Andrea. This is a big one, Andrea.
I can't believe it.
We made it happen.
We did not.
That's true. Jeff Anderson and Robert Thomas
Our
both wanted this to happen.
Hey, guys, will you help?
Yeah, I think we had to go to appeal to a higher authority. But we finally got Barbara Bailey and Bill Bryant because she asked him to join her. And I'm glad he did because the two of them together is quite the entertaining pair.
Well, they mentioned during their conversation with us that they can hardly ever surprise each other anymore. Like, they're just so used to being together. They are probably two people who've worked together longer on television than anyone else in the state. Can you think, I just
realized I said is the entertaining pair. It should have been
You're so dumb.
Pair. It bothered me.
Should we start over?
No, let's just keep going. I'm not,
Okay, of all people to have bad grammatics.
If I should start this over.
Bad grammar. Barbara's the grammar police and listen to us.
I know.
We just lost all.
That. But you're right. And so the two of them, it was hilarious how many stories one of them would start and the other one knew exactly where to where to pick up.
Yeah, they're just hilarious. That's one of my favorite things, honestly, and I'm not making this up, watching them fight back and forth. And they do perform. They egg each other on.
Yeah, and they know people are watching.
And people, I've had some reporters be like, do they hate each other? If you're new and don't realize, and I'm like, no, not at all. They adore each other, truly. This is how they show it,
I'm excited we got to do this because there were some stories that I heard that I did not know about.
Right.
And I'm very glad I did.
Oh my gosh. They've got 75 years, a combined 75 years worth of stories to tell.
Yeah. So
live television. Yeah, you're going to have some stories.
This was a good one. Yeah. So, okay, we'll talk more on the back end, but let's just get right to it because you all are going to want to hear from them. And I disappear for about 2 minutes because I had to take a phone call setting up a story.
Yes.
That's just the nature of our business.
I didn't have to do anything while you were gone. They were talking
the entire time.
I was
going to say, I could kind of hear them talking. Yeah, so
See, I didn't think they would talk to us, because they rarely have enough time. And also I knew we say 20 minutes, they're going to be here for 40.
Once they got going, yeah. No,
I knew that's what was going to happen. Because they just enjoy it. They enjoy each other, and we enjoy them. And this is kind of in celebration of Barbara, 40 years in this industry here in Lexington.
Oh, she knows. All I have to do is say a word.
They are gossiping right now, right in front of us.
You ready to go?
Oh, yeah. Well, it's a rolling start. We
we
don't really have any kind of format. We just kind of get going.
Bill, I feel betrayed. Normally you're writing me notes. Now he's writing Barbara notes. He's talking bad about
So this is nice. This is something we've been wanting for a long time. It's finally happening. Kind of in celebration of Barb's 40th anniversary, but also in celebration that they were both available at the same time.
Well, this summer was
Here we are.
my 35th anniversary here, so we both
See,
have
there we go.
a little
Oh my
special
gosh,
year.
add it up, 75 years?
Oh my,
Barbie, you're too good at math.
It's really scary.
And so Barb wouldn't do it unless Bill would do it with her.
That's true.
That's right.
This really
The
makes
duo.
me very intimidated,
Well-
and I want to say that off the top. Radio has always scared me, and seeing that microphone, I know it's a contradiction because of what I do, but it just really does make me nervous.
You know,
Yeah,
Barb
thousands
was,
of people watch you live.
Barb was starting at the Harlan Daily Enterprise about the time I was starting in radio. So
That's
this
right.
microphone is, something
So
I was
I
doing
intended to
a while
be,
back.
in newspapers where I wouldn't have to do this, but that didn't work out.
But this has happened
This
a lot
has.
of times over the years. We have done radio together lots of times. When Barb would always say, "They've invited me to be on
got to
somewhere."
come with me. You've got to come
So
with
we've
me.
done it. We did Mount Sterling one time. That was
Oh,
fun. You
yes,
remember
it
that?
was. Absolutely.
yeah, since we first started this podcast, that was the thing. We wanted Barbara and Bill, but they could only come together. They're a package deal, obviously.
That's right.
Bill
That's
Barb,
right, we're a
Barb Bill,
team.
right?
Speaking of
It's all
that,
about teamwork.
how often are you all mistaken for husband and wife?
Well, it has happened. It has happened, and it was really confusing when we did the mornings and Chris Bailey was there. Oh my gosh!
Oh,
I
and your
couldn't-
child.
Your son,
I could
your son
not
Chris
go
Bailey,
to
yeah.
any kind of a drive-through because people would say, "Now, what is the relationship? Is he your husband? Is he your son? Is he your nephew?"
Husband?
Oh, I know. Listen, I heard it all.
Get it, girl.
And I'd say, "Well, who knows? Who knows?"
But a lot of people have been with us a long time. They remember. they remember back when we started, and I remember Barb was one of the first people I ran across in the newsroom when I
And I didn't
came
scare
in.
you away.
No, you were nice.
Oh, well,
then,
that's good. I'm
in
glad.
those days, no.
Bill!
we have had and then over these years, you develop such really a sibling relationship that
That's
Barb
what
and
it's
I
more
have
like.
I was
always
gonna say, well,
known.
yeah, it is
Yeah.
almost it's like a marriage mixed with brother and sister.
Right.
Like
Yes.
you're around each other all the time. You have to work together. You have to get used to each other. I'm sure there's arguments, but there's also love.
Their
It's
bickering
just,
is one of my favorite things in the newsroom,
Well,
by far.
sometimes when we will be bickering like that, somebody will say, boy, I thought you all were mad at each other. What was going on? Over what? It's just
Right.
kind of the
Yeah, we
way
don't
it
think anything of it.
I'm the
What do you
same way
mean
with
we
my
were bickering?
family.
y'all don't even
And I
realize
told
it.
them that my first day of my Alaska trip, that was one of my introductory things was, it's going to sound like my mom and I are fighting, and we're not.
Yeah.
That's just
So just so you
how
know.
we show love.
That's what it all comes down to.
We've had times though that we realized we had a little audience in the newsroom, and we just
They perform.
kind of fun.
take it up a gear.
Suddenly it's like pro wrestling. You just
Not
yeah.
you.
Well, it is kind of fun when you look up and you see people you looking like, oh my
Bug-eyed,
gosh,
yeah.
oh my gosh, what's going on with them?
I love it. I love it. So let's go back to the beginning. Barbara, you are from Harlan, correct?
That's right,
All right. So
and proud of it.
I know. I love it. And they're proud of you. We know that for sure.
Well, I don't know about that, but
So-
it's a great place, and I always like to get back there when I can.
Yeah. So what did you want to do growing up in Harlan? Is this what you always wanted, or was it radio, or, well, no, newspaper, excuse me, not radio.
Well, actually, I was a music major when I went to UK. I was in performance piano. Can you believe that? Performance piano, let that soak in. And again, what really intimidated me was whenever I would walk by Memorial Hall, or when one of the kids in class would say, oh yeah, that's where we do our senior recitals, and I'd go, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to be in front of people. There's a difference if you're in a little practice room or whatever, but it was a great way to be undecided, actually. And that year, I had a chance to look around and I said, what I've always really loved, I've loved reading newspapers, I love writing. Why couldn't I do something that I love so much and I have so much passion for?
Do you
So,
still play piano?
I do. I have my grandfather's piano in my house. It's my prized possession.
Well, I've heard about you getting it tuned before. This is a big
This is a
ritual.
big thing.
Yes, it's a
Well,
big ordeal.
Because my beloved dog, everybody knows that I adore Henry. I love Henry, but you hit one key on the piano and Henry starts howling.
He's singing.
That's all. Well, that's what I try to think. That he's singing. I hope it's not hurting his ears. I think he's singing, but wherever he is in the house. So I have to make sure that he's outside before the tuner arrives because he loves it. And he'll sit down, and I can't move a 106-pound dog if he wants to stay for the concert.
That's a big dog.
So I have to move him out of there. And it's the same thing. It does take a little bit of the fun out of it if he's howling the whole time.
So how did you make the transition from piano to? Did you change majors, or did you just look for jobs when you got out?
I changed majors.
Okay.
So, but I loved. I'm kind of like a music major wannabe still. I loved that first year at UK. It was wonderful. And I think the music department over there is just, excellent. It's so wonderful. Yeah. They have superstars. I was not one of the superstars, but
Yeah, can't you hear the music in her voice, though?
Yeah.
That's what I've always liked about Barbara's voice. Is it has this melodic sort of tone to it all the time.
I didn't think you liked that. I thought you made fun of me for that.
Well, that too, but
That too. All right.
But
the truth comes
but I
out.
enjoy it. I mean, really, you one of your strengths as an anchor is a tremendous voice, I think, and it always
Well,
has
thank
been.
you. Well,
Yeah.
that's very nice of you to say.
Oh my gosh, this is so weird to see them getting along.
I feel kind of.
You want us to start bickering?
Yes.
I feel like we're intruding. Like
I know.
Andrea and I are just like, okay, we'll just sit back and let you all just talk. That's
Fly
kind
on
of the
the
fun of
wall.
it. So Barb, what was your first job in the industry, in the news industry?
Well, let's see. I had written for my hometown newspaper. I was a staff writer for the Harlan Daily Enterprise with Ewell Baltrip, and he was the greatest boss in the world. I just adored that opportunity. Then I was an intern at what is now 36. It was 62 at the time. And then I also, when I was in grad school, I taught journalism classes. And then I came here. This is it. But now, Ken Kurtz the other day made it sound like he just was...
He rescued you.
That he rescued me and he wanted me in here for the very first. I had to apply for a job here 3 times before I got hired. So persistence is a part of it.
And she found her unopened application on,
Yes.
on his desk one
I
day.
had sent through snail mail, of course, a resume to Ken Kurtz a couple of years before he hired me. And years later, when I was helping him clean out his office, which was a mess, I found it still sealed. He had never even looked at it. And I said, Ken, you could have hired me 2 years before you hired me, because here it is. And he goes, oh, okay. And just
And that
paid no
was it.
attention to it. Oh, all right, whatever.
Well, Kurt selected you hungry. You know, he hired me. I had to chase him down at the Kentucky Broadcasters Association to get an internship down the hall.
That was Ken.
Remember that?
He was fun.
Chased him down, and then he said, "Can you work weekends?" Yes. Will you work nights? Yes. Will you work? You know, and that's how it started. And that's how you made your way back then, making yourself available.
Absolutely.
He hired the greats here. I mean, who all did he hire? Both of you, Rob Bromley, Sam Dick. I mean,
Dave Baker.
Yeah.
Yeah, kinda laid the
Sam
foundation.
the first time and had a role in Sam's return to the station. Certainly.
And he was a great teacher. I have been blessed to have the best teachers around here. Ken, when you had any kind of a breaking news story, was so wonderful because he could walk into the room and just make a pass by every desk and give everybody an assignment. You call here, you do this, you assemble this, you do, and he gave everybody a different task, so we weren't duplicating efforts, but we were all working together on the same story.
Well said.
And when he didn't like something you had done, he would stuff it in your mailbox, and when you came in, he'd say, check your mailbox, come see me. So he was not shy about telling you what you had done wrong.
well, he still emails us
I was going
to
to
this
say,
day.
we know
It
Ken
hasn't
is the guy who
stopped.
emails us all the time, and it's also as I think we talked about the Facebook, the video you can watch on Facebook as far as the behind the scenes celebration we had the other day whenever the mayor came on. And we said, you know, it's kind of interesting to watch Ken interact with everybody because we know him as the guy who emails us, and then, but it's like so many people that we respect him, so we kind of realize. What
Well,
a
the
big
great
deal it
thing
was.
about Ken is that you could respectfully disagree, and if if there was an editorial point, he invited that. He wanted disagreement. He wanted discussion on an editorial matter. You know, lots of times. These decisions aren't easy. You know, are you going to release a name in a crime, or are you going to?
We had lively discussions.
How are you going to
on
cover
a lot of
something? And it was
things.
lively, and he allowed that, and you know, people would use whatever terminology they needed, and Ken was fine with that. And then 5 minutes later, it was over.
Well, and I remember he told me one of my first days here that when you sit back and just watch everything, he said, do not take it seriously what people say or do when they're under a deadline. You know, if things get kind of crazy in here, you're dealing with a lot of creative, talented people, and they're going to be in that pressure cooker, and just ignore it. And he really lived by
That's
that.
great advice.
Yeah, he really did.
That happens now.
I remember one of my first days here, though, an employee who is no longer here, but was really fabulously talented, came in and was irritated about something in the news. And he came up to the area, I was sitting pretty close by where Ken was, and he said, that's it, Ken, I quit. And he goes storming out of the building. And Ken didn't even look up. He's just sitting there, you know, kind of going about his business. I said, Ken,
He
did you
just
not-
quit.
Did you not hear? Did you not hear what he just said? Oh my gosh! Well, you've got to go after him. What did you hear this?
He'll be back, Barbara.
And he said, oh, he'll be back. And about an hour later, after he'd walked it off, he came back and sat down and worked on his story.
He
Oh
vented.
my gosh, I
He got
love
he got it out.
Yeah,
Right.
got it out.
I
of the
actually
system.
think I know who you're talking about, and we won't have to say it
We
on the
also had-
podcast, but I think I
People
know.
can
We also
speculate.
Yes.
had an anchor who would become, the term she would use is too mad to work. Some
Oh,
days.
yes.
And that would,
Yeah, that was fun. That was fun. But, you know,
that would
just...
it would be an occasional day like that when they had
Well,
clashed
and the
a little.
business was different then. You have to understand, we were dropping film off at the processor and waiting for it. So that phrase, we'll have film at 11,
Was
mental,
literally-
that's what
Right.
it meant. You could not do things instantaneously.
And
It was different.
kind of building on that, I think one thing the mayor mentioned was that you've been such a role model, and I know you won't claim it, but you are a role model for so many women in this industry, and we're spoiled. You know, we don't do tape to tape, but we're also spoiled with the way that we're treated. I know you and I have talked a little bit about, you know, being a woman in this business, especially when you started. It was a different world. What was that like for you? I know you probably can't give too many specifics, but it was tough.
Oh, some of the specifics that I could give. No.
It would be so good.
But it would be like that for any woman.
Right.
And it was just a different day and age. It was a different day and age. And so I'm glad, you know, when people sit back now, even on a topic like maternity leave, I'll go, we didn't have maternity leave. You had to use your sick days, had to use your vacation days, and then you were kind of back to work. So and in fact, I worked up until the last with my kids too. With Clark, I had never really gone into labor because I had to be induced with my daughter. So I did the 6 o'clock news with these pains of what I thought were, I thought I just had, you know, some nausea. And I was just having a stomach ache. And I went, well, I really feel bad, ha. If I didn't know better, I would think I was in labor, ha. And when I got into the car, I noticed that my waves of bad stomach were coming every couple of minutes. And that's when I went, I think there's something going on here. Oh my gosh.
She was giving birth on the set.
It came very close.
I know.
It came very close to that.
Barbara. Oh
But,
my
you know.
goodness. That is wild.
You remember the old line, you can't catch this?
Oh yes. When I was pregnant the first time, I didn't want to tell anybody till we were a little bit more along. And Bill, who's a germaphobe, you do have
He
to admit,
is.
well,
Sure,
he
of course.
is a
He
germaphobe.
is.
So I was on the set and had a garbage can in between us, and he held up his hands like this. I wish people could see that. Held up his hands to block any germs that could come his way. And he said, if you're that sick, you should go home before you make everybody else sick.
And she looked at me and said, Bill, you can't catch this. So then I knew. And I said,
Oh,
and I said, congratulations.
so that was different times.
I want a T-shirt.
Solid, yeah, no, that's good. You can't catch
Bill,
this,
you
huh?
can't catch this.
Wow.
That's
All right.
awesome.
So, Bill, what was it like for you when you started here? You know, Barb was already established at that point.
And you had so much respect for me, right?
I did.
He
I mean,
still does.
The kindness was
Yes.
was number one, and then we were from the same area of the state, and I was well aware of that. We were the trial balloons of them trying these Kentucky accents on the air. Before
Yes.
that it was like everybody had to sound like you were from somewhere,
But not here.
But not
and
here.
that didn't make any sense to me. Wouldn't it be better to, if you have an accent, it would be better to have it from the area where you're working, I think.
So they told me to lose mine until I had been on the air about a year, and then they said, don't ever lose that. So
Can you give us a little taste of your non-accent?
Of his non-accent?
Non-accent?
No,
Yes.
he can't do that.
Like
You
what?
can't even.
He
Well,
always
if you
has.
were for a year, you had to try.
You mean to try you?
No, he didn't.
Was it just
You
very
always had
stilted
it.
and dry? I mean, was that just...
No, he always had his accent. If you were trying to cover it, you
Right.
were not successful.
Right, right. It was a little Ron radio in the beginning. I think we all you find your place along the way, and I think early on I had to, you overdo the cover up a little bit, right?
Overdo the cover up. I love that. Well, I'm always a little offended actually when you and Jimmy being from Salyersville, say that I don't
Jim
have
Caldwell,
that
for those.
much of an accent.
Now
Because
we-
I've never tried to lose my accent.
Now
I
we
really
can
haven't.
slide back into it very quick. Jim and I particularly.
Yeah,
gosh,
you guys
yes.
get going and start talking back and forth, and it's like you feed off each other.
Telling-
He's a
start
bad
telling
influence in
mountain
every
tales
way.
and we're done. Yeah, right. Yeah.
Mountain tales.
I never tried to lose my accent, but there was a reporter here once who pulled me aside. This was back before I was doing a little bit of reporting, and they hired me kind of as the gopher in the newsroom because they didn't really have a reporter opening. And she pulled me aside and gave me this advice and said, listen, honey, if you think they're ever going to put you on the air around here with that accent, you're crazy. She really did say that.
Wow.
And I kind of went, okay, thanks very much.
I'm going to take your job someday.
You walk after somebody says that, you're a little stunned, but then you think, okay, I guess I just have to work harder to make them want me.
There are ways to say these things in a nicer tone.
I really think, though, and we're talking about 35 years ago, 1984, 85, it really had not occurred to them how much the authenticity of being a Kentuckian would be beneficial on the air. And I think that over the time, that's what this station has come to be known for.
That's our strength,
because we have so many people, yourself and Victor included, who are from Kentucky, and it has made a big difference. And it's mixed with people who are from elsewhere as well, and it's a nice mix, I think, among our staff.
Yeah, I agree.
But technology is the big thing that has so changed, since we started. I mean, it
Amazingly
really,
so.
you get to keep in mind, if you'll remember, and we had been here years when the Challenger disaster happened in 1986, when we didn't do a newscast until 3 o'clock in the afternoon.
Well, and the day that happened, it had become so commonplace that, these launches go off and they're just, they're no big
It's a
deal.
given it's going to go.
Everything's
Yeah.
going to be fine. I was getting ready for the news, but somebody came by and they said, get on the set right now. Something has
wow.
happened. We were preparing for our local cut-in here. We were going to go with it because one of our engineers had seen this occur when they were watching a feed. And we were just getting ready to go when CBS
When
said,
that word finally came.
they said
on.
We're cutting
standing by for a live report, and then they just, obviously stayed on. But what a difficult day.
I had somebody ask me just the other day, they're like, what do you do when stuff comes in? Because everybody thinks everything we say is scripted, and it's not.
Right.
So take us through those situations. You guys do it so flawlessly, it probably looks like it's scripted, but there are times when you just have to go and you have so little details. How do you do that? How do you even practice for that?
Well, sometimes what you find out as a story unfolds is that it's really going to be a very difficult story. I still remember when Brenda Cowan, that horrible day when she was killed, when they got in my earpiece and said, we have confirmed it is a fatality. And that was a very difficult day. And of course, the plane crash.
Right, 5191.
When we started realizing that we knew the people who were in that, and that everybody in Lexington, that's when you say, this is a small town.
Right.
Everybody knew somebody, or they knew somebody that they had a connection.
I always think it's important in those situations to draw the picture of what we know and what we don't know, and so when you're asked to take the air and hold air, and at times with very little information.
Nobody does it like you, Bill Bryant.
Well, but it's here's what we don't know. This is what we're going to what we're efforting. This is what we're trying to put together. We were talking about technology. My reference to the Challenger was that it was after that NASA realized we are not looking at the same maps at Mission Control that they're looking at in Florida. Maybe we need some technology that will make that possible. And therefore, the fax machine was developed as a result. And Lee Todd, the former president of the University of Kentucky, was one of the inventors of the fax.
Yeah.
And so that came along,
A lot of
86.
things came out of that.
This is all, of course, prior to the internet. It is prior to cell phones. When we were on a story in somewhere in rural Kentucky, you hoped
Knock on the door.
that you could knock on the door and somebody might let you leave them $2 and make a long distance call.
Yeah.
That's what we had to do.
Absolutely.
And we knew exactly when you would top the mountain ridge where your two-way radio to Lexington would work. If you're coming up I-75, it was Berea. If you're coming out
yes.
of Moorhead, it was Owingsville.
Different day. But when I first started working here, I had no intention of being on the air. I remember telling Ken, I want to be the person behind the scenes who puts everything together. I don't want to be a reporter or an anchor. I want to be the person behind the scenes. And then he said, well, around here we do it all. And I thought, what does that mean? Well, I found out very quickly.
I bet you did. Yeah.
But I really enjoyed so much my reporting days. I loved that because finding the story and putting the story together and telling the story has always been so important to me. And I think the best anchors always are the best reporters. And when you're talking about a live situation where something is breaking, that's when you become a reporter on the air. Instead of the anchor who's reading scripts and interpreting those, you are asking the questions and you are putting that story together. You're piecing it all together as a reporter would, but you're doing it in front of everybody.
Right.
Well said.
Yeah, that's so true.
I think people at home also like the process whenever you let them know, what you're working on, what you don't know. And so I think that's comforting too.
Yeah. I know when I first started working here, one of the first things you encouraged me to do was read The Bluegrass Conspiracy.
Yes, I did.
I still have that book of yours.
Unread.
Yes.
The last time I asked you about it, have you read it yet?
I've read like a chapter.
Oh, okay. All right.
But it's
Have you
kind of
watched John
difficult.
Wick yet?
No.
Okay.
I'm very behind on my assignments. But you know this story like inside and out. You all were covering these stories.
here.
I mean,
Well, in fact, the reporter who wrote that book was our investigative reporter. And when she came into the newsroom, not like the reporters of today where you know that you're going to be reporting at least one story a day. She worked on that story for months before she even went on the air.
wow.
But we would see the little pieces coming together on all of it. So it was really incredible to watch that.
And that rolled into some years of, some real heinous crimes in the area. We had the Turpin murder case in 1986, where a young man was murdered by his wife and some others. There was what we referred to as the Full Moon 5 incident, where 5 people were killed in one night.
You were working that night on that story. We used to be, you talk about teamwork, we were together, the police beat.
Right.
I went down one time a day and Bill went down another time of day, and we would swing by and we would see what was going on, and so together we were the
And
crime
we had
beat.
all these sources within the police department.
So that night I was monitoring, we had a barricade situation that night, and I was monitoring that and kept making calls, and finally I got the call, because I had to get into work pretty early. I got a call saying, it's all over, here are the facts, and I got to call in my story, and then I said, okay, I'm putting the phone down, I'm, turning everything off, and I'm going to sleep.
Right.
So the next morning, you had been out working
Been
on this
all-
story
out all
overnight, but the
night,
next
yeah.
morning, I flipped it on. I was in the other room brushing my teeth when I heard them say, a horrible night in Lexington, Kentucky, where 5 people were murdered overnight. And as I'm brushing my teeth, I
Like,
went,
Bill!
oh my gosh.
Oh,
And
it had
then
been a
I
night.
found out about your connection to that.
That I had been there all night. We had
Wow.
broken in after the 11 o'clock news several times. We did hits for the network because it was a national story that night. And got 2 hours sleep and came back in and did the noon show. I remember that was...
So,
Well, going back a little bit, I think, Bill, you kind of gave your observations about Barb when you first came in. Barbara, what did you think of a young Bill Bryant?
well, you knew from the very beginning when Bill came in, the energy that he had and the passion that he had for this. So with that combination, you knew he was going to be a long-term player, and that he just kind of fit into the organization seamlessly.
They don't believe me that I have calmed down over the years. Will you verify that?
That's what he says.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see an energized Bill.
I know, I'm like, what?
Well, actually, I think everybody, that newsroom, because of the nature of the equipment we had to use and the way the business was at the time, it was just a real pressure cooker. So, yeah, I agree with him.
Well, like you said,
calmed
I mean,
down.
when
He's
it's-
calmed down.
when-
This is the calmed down version.
calm down version's still lively, I guess, right? Sometimes. Barb and I had all these different experiences together. We did the noon show together in the 80s, and she went away for what was supposed to be 3 months on the 11 o'clock that lasted a few years, and then you returned to the...
I think it was about
to the-
10 years on the 11.
But we, since 94, so it's 25 years, we've done an hour at noon, and that has been its own source of...
And it's a good thing, because I always say 99.9% of the time, I know what you're going to say.
Right.
I know what you're going to do. Every once in a while, you surprise me.
Right.
Or, but where you'll just come out, and it is good to know that, how that person's going to react, but sometimes you'll go, wow, I wasn't expecting you to say or do that.
We'll back at you.
Yeah.
That happens sometimes. I remember one time early on, there was some confusion about when Man of War Boulevard was opening. They did it in sections, and so each time that there would be a different part opened up, it'd be a big celebration. So, it's open from Palumbo Drive to Richmond Road, and there'd be a big deal. It's open from Richmond Road to Alumni, big deal.
Yes.
To Tate's Creek, so they have a big ribbon cutting and a big to-do, and we'd have a live report generally on the noon
Yes,
show.
and we had this monitor behind us. It was
That
kind of
you-
between us. It would actually levitate up.
Yeah.
It would.
That's
would
awesome.
all of a sudden
So-
start coming.
so
about.
Can we
always-
bring that back?
So we
It was really
always
cool.
went to that. We looked at that when there was a live report. We would turn around and look at that. Well, on this day,
Oh, goodness.
I guess it was not live, and I didn't know that. So I turned around, and Barb's
He has
famous,
teased me about the
Barb's
way I said
famous
that.
line. I said, "Let's go live to Ken Marshall," who, by the way, then became a big hospital executive in Louisville.
Oh, yes, great guy, great
but
guy.
I remember I turned and I said, "Let's go live to Ken Marshall," and you said,
Not a live report. Because I'm expecting him to start turning around and say, now Kenny, tell me about blah, blah,
Right.
blah, and asking him questions. And you couldn't ask him because he was not live.
"So I pulled that out that line."
And
not
it was
live.
I wanna see
misrepresentation,
that. Yeah.
not a live report.
Barb, do you
Just
remember
called
the
out
time?
on air.
Do you remember,
What?
remember the
Wow.
time that I let a sponge stay in the car too long?
Oh, gross.
Remember that?
Bill.
Oh, gosh.
Remember that?
This was, well, you know, the thought of,
We all have to wear a little powder. in
people
TV.
always think it's funny because men have
Oh,
to
a
wear
makeup
makeup.
sponge.
And
I didn't know what.
a makeup sponge. And of course, it was more important then. Those lights were so heavy, and they really
They
just
were hotter,
cut through.
yeah.
Well, I came out on the set, and I said, "What is that smell? What is that smell?" And Bill goes, "Well, I think I may know what it is."
And she continued again, and I finally
Oh,
said,
what is that smell? It's like sour and ugh.
"Barbara, it's my face."
He had used this makeup sponge that was way too old anyway, and it was breaking up.
It
So
was a-
little pieces
Oh,
of this soured
the heat of
sponge
summer, and it was just
were
not.
everywhere. Well, the way to get back at him, though, I went back in the newsroom and I went to every woman. I said, "Let's bring him makeup sponges that he can throw away on a
They
regular."
bought me like a year's
So
supply.
he came in the next day, and his
He's
desk
still
was
using them.
full
Yeah, I was
of-
gonna say.
he had all of these
Stretching
makeup
them out.
sponges, and we said, "Use them and throw them away.
Bill's
and don't
face
come
is
out
falling
like that."
off.
So we called him Stinky Face for a while.
Billy.
Wasn't that mean?
Stinky Face. Oh no, you almost made me sick. I needed that garbage can between us.
Oh my gosh. Wait, and where did "and a good time was had by all" come from?
Oh, well, that was.
Unnamed
again,
You
report.
have so many
unnamed
good
report.
phrases.
Unnamed
We will
reporter.
come back and do a version and give these names 20
Someday.
years from now.
Someday we will.
They're tell-all.
Because they will record
there
one
was
and
a
it'll have to be released,
reporter.
10
I
years from
think that. I think what 90% of her stories ended with that phrase,
To-
"and a good time was had by all."
Because it was, generally she would be on the weekend beat on
Doing fun
sort of
activities.
the
Yeah,
fun
runs
activity
and-
story.
yeah.
And there was, what better way to sum up the story than "and a good time was had by all."
Barbara and Bill. I love it because my
we
mom
feel
even
you
says
say.
that
She was
now.
really,
Yeah.
she was really sweet. I really liked her.
But and there's so many things that have come back around. It's like now we're back to we do it all. We have
Yes.
our reporters are shooting and are editing and are anchoring and are everybody's doing those kinds of things. So we're back around in that regard. We're back around to doing we do a whole lot of news.
That's
there,
my. What's it been like for you all watching just how much the output of the station has increased? Because it used to be you'd have 6 o'clock in morning or news or like noon and then morning show.
When we started, it was morning cut-in, and and then a noon half hour, and then 5:30, 6, and 11. That's
And
all
in
we
fact, that's how, after I started as the gopher in the newsroom, about 6 months later, they were going to start a morning show, Town and Country, with John Sullivan. And I'm convinced the reason that they gave me this opportunity, they said, "We want you to do the news on the program." I think it's because they knew that I would show up on time. I had to get here about 2:30 in the morning.
Punctuality.
Because I had to, we were putting together, I had to splice all the film together. We had to have everything written. We didn't have computers then, so everything was hard copy. It was all typed. So it was a lot of that manual labor like that. But I remember the week before we started, they said, "Well, we're going to let you start doing the cut-ins this week." Driving out
Ease
here,
you
I thought,
in.
I am scared to death to even get up in front of 10 people and say something. Why am I doing this? Why am I doing this? And so when I got out there, my microphone was on. I started just like this with my heart going so fast. And that's all I could hear. It was like in my ears.
You
I
could
heard
hear
this
your heart.
heartbeat, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this is so loud, and my microphone's right there. I bet people can hear this.
Oh my gosh.
You know, isn't that a stupid thing to have run through your mind?
But Barbara and I,
Bill just wrote down a note, Barbara.
Well, I guess
so you
we've
better
done more. I guess we've done more newscasts
And he's
together
covering it
than,
up,
than
too.
any two people in the state certainly together. And we
Probably.
with the years and the morning shows, 2 or 3 stints, and that we had. So we've done all of those things. But I have fun occasionally. Throwing it back, as you know, sometimes going back old school is what I'm saying. And so one of the references, and Andrea, you'll recognize this in the morning, live from Lexington, which is something I'll say in our teases a lot of times. That goes back to live from Lexington. This is News Center 27.
Oh, yes.
But see, I think people love those.
I do too.
I really do.
And I find the feedback to that is, when people, there are those for whom it is very new.
I remember that.
And then there's some who can remember.
Yeah, I
And
remember
so
that.
It's
You know,
fun.
that set, the news centers around you,
Yeah.
it had a fake ceiling. Do you
Yeah.
remember that?
It was a Dixie cup of a thing. So
Yeah, and it would hang there, and they would take a picture of that on a different camera, and that was your
Yeah.
ceiling. Well, I remember the night somebody bumped into the
Yep.
camera,
Oh, no.
and it starts going like the ceiling, or they bumped into the thing that it was like a mobile
Yeah.
kind of, that it was hanging on. It started swaying back and forth, so it looked like the ceiling was
Looked like an
going
earthquake.
back and
Oh,
forth.
my
we
gosh.
were on the
Yeah,
air.
we were on the air
Barb
during
and
an
I were
earthquake.
on one morning. There was an earthquake.
Oh,
And,
you've told me about that
I mean,
before.
not like a
No, but-
California earthquake.
Right.
Pretty good
but still.
shaker, and the lights were shaking, and pretty soon the meteorologist called and said, "Well, that was an earthquake."
Yeah, it
Oh,
was
my
what you
gosh.
thought it was.
Now, I know you all have to go back to work.
Yep.
You all, time is so valuable, and we appreciate you spending as much as you have with us. Last thing I think I have to ask about is, obviously, you were surprised by your 40th celebration. You knew something was cooking up. Bill gave you some hints.
Okay, I knew something was up because the day before, Bill says to me, "What are you wearing tomorrow?" And
Which
I
I never do.
Oh my God.
Exactly. That's why it was a dead
Oh, my
giveaway.
gosh. Why
does he
do
care
you
now?
Why do you want to know what I'm wearing
Because I knew
tomorrow?
you would be mad if you didn't have some hint that there was something.
Well, that was the hint,
Then
and
there
I
was
went,
another one.
"Okay, so what?"
Then I said your doppelganger will be here.
Linda Gorton,
Yes.
a fellow Chi Omega.
Yeah, that's right. We discovered that after she was
Right.
mayor, or no, I guess when she was running for mayor. And I love her. I think she's
wonderful.
she's doing a great job. She's a wonderful mayor. But I thought, what does that mean? Because we've always teased. I have the short dark hair.
Mm-hmm.
She does too. We sometimes will wear some of the similar clothes.
Right.
I come in here frequently with my glasses on. I don't think she had ever thought that there was any resemblance between us. But
I
you've
see
always
it.
pointed that out.
I see
Yeah.
it.
But I did, when he said that, I thought, what in the world could that mean? I don't get it. So I didn't connect all the dots, but I thought,
Something's happening.
And then all of y'all who are around the curtain, as we say.
Okay, Ken Kurtz, can we just say, is the loudest man on the
Yeah.
planet.
Well, I start hearing this little
Oh, gosh. Oh, we're smooth, man.
And
We're
she's hearing
smooth.
it through the
Shattering.
earpiece, so I pulled her
He
earpiece.
pulled my earpiece
I said-
out.
He sure
I
did.
said, I think you're having trouble with your earpiece.
Popped it right out.
So,
But probably the
I knew
biggest
something.
surprise of the day, Roger Cowden made an appearance.
My husband does not like to be on television. He always says,
I'm
"Oh,
sad I
that's
missed him."
your thing," and
Just
he
like Dolly
actually
Parton's
showed up.
husband. You know?
Somebody said that. Somebody
Yes,
said that back
but he
then.
wouldn't. Now he wouldn't come on the set. He wouldn't come.
Oh,
the
no.
one saying, "Come sit by me." He would not come and
And
sit by me.
I
But
at
he-
first started to grab him, and like somebody pushed me off, and they're
no.
like, he said no. And I was like,
He-
oh,
we had
okay.
I had called him.
he kind of darted around the studio like a shark.
I called and invited him, and he said, "One condition: I will not be on a camera."
And that does not surprise me.
And
Yeah.
if you watch that video, it's hilarious to watch Bill. Like you almost turn into Bob Barker with the
You were
live
so
microphones
good.
walking around, just like you were having a good time.
We had fun out of that. And then after time ran out on the air, we went over on Facebook
Yep.
and stayed with it a while. So
It was very
fun day.
sweet. I always say I hate surprises, but that was very sweet. It really was.
I really enjoyed watching it. The
really
whole thing
touched
is on
me.
our Facebook page if somebody wants to see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
warmed my heart.
Well, it should, and I think that everybody, you know, that love was so strong. It was just incredible. Like, I don't think there's going to, just with, you know, the emergence of social media and everything, there's not going to be another Barbara Bailey. Like, people just don't watch the news as much as they used to. Like,
Oh, I hope not. I hope that I hope people are much better than that. Oh
but
my
you've
gosh.
just, I mean, you've been a member of people's families. Like, you're on the TV when they're eating dinner at night. You're like a member of the family.
Well,
so,
you know, as long as I've been here, I kind of say as a joke, but maybe not as a joke, that my most important role here is as news mom.
we need it
yeah.
so
I
badly.
always like
Yeah.
to,
We're a
I like to
mess.
mother people.
And you've
I like
always
to
done
do
that.
that.
She was news mom when she was, in her 20s.
Aw.
So you said that the whole thing kind of touched you. Was there ever a moment where you thought like, oh, I might cry on air?
Oh, she
might break
did, a
down?
little
bit.
I
She
mean, that's-
teared.
A little bit, but I mean, it was.
I thought you were going to
You
lose
did a good
it.
job of keeping it.
I tried to, because that's really ugly. I didn't want to be crying. I didn't want to, that would be very ugly. I was trying my best to hold it
We've
back.
had a few. We did a telethon that lasted 4 days one time, and I remember at the end of that, just kind of.
I'd be crying too.
Kind of were
I was so
heap of-
exhausted.
Those were long. But
Those
we did
were-
some good, so certainly
Yeah.
for Kentucky Children's Hospital all those years. But those were grueling.
Well, obviously, we didn't cover, 40 and 35 years worth of stories from you two. So if you ever want to come back, this is an open invitation.
We're
for
going to
us.
write a
It
book.
was fun.
You need
We've always
to
said
say,
that we were going to
We
write
have
a
said
book
that.
together.
With names if we wait long enough.
Change mine, please. Okay. My one request.
Well, we promise you this will be easy. We try to not make it too punishing.
What do you think, Barbara?
My
Was it as bad as
security
you thought?
blanket helped me a lot. Thank you,
Good.
Bill.
Thank you both. We
And you all
appreciate
were
you.
very kind with your questions. I
Good.
appreciate that.
We love
very
you
much.
both.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Andrea, how do you think that? We've got squeaky chairs here, and I just realized that we are back in the big conference room for today, just so we could get some pictures of us talking to them. Andrea, how do you feel that went?
Great. I mean, it went pretty much how I thought it would go.
Yeah. Yeah, I at
They
one point
complete each other.
exactly. At one point, I said I felt like you and I were just kind of bystanders on this, and we could have really just turned it on and then left the room, and
for sure.
ended up with a great podcast.
Maybe better.
It probably would have
Let's
been.
not suggest that because they may be like, how about we just do that?
Yeah, next time, just write down some questions and leave the room. Unless you're-
Conversations with Bill and Barb. No. X
Well,
that. We
that-
may have to take that out.
That would just be one more thing Bill would have to do during the day. I don't think he'd sign
Right,
up
he
for that.
can't. He can't.
Between everything here, all his KT stuff, and newsmakers.
I'm
that man's
working out.
busy. Yeah.
Oh
That
my
is.
gosh.
So that was fun. I hope
What
you all
did you
enjoyed
learn? What did you learn? Your takeaway?
that. I enjoyed them picking on each other, and I learned that Barb is not afraid to embarrass Bill.
Oh gosh, no. And I think she's the only one that can get away with it.
Yeah.
Like, I work closely with Bill, but there is a line that I cannot cross that Barbara can definitely cross.
I think because we all kind of revere him, and it's like,
For
okay,
sure.
I'm not going to poke the bear. And instead, it's like, even you joke around with him, and she's just like, here you go.
Right,
Let's
I know.
him have it.
And I do it a little bit. Like, I kind of flirt with the line a little bit, but I try not to cross it. And it's funny in the mornings, our producers, Kelsey and Noah, they're young. They have those crazy young people stories. You know how kids are these days.
My back.
But they won't say anything bad in front of Bill. They won't. They'll talk to me and Jim about things, and Bill will be like, what are y'all talking about? They're like, nothing. Because he's just on a different level. Like, he's Bill Bryant, So we need to have him in, honestly, for one on his own.
So that's fun. Yeah, I'm excited to do that. We will talk to Bill at some point, get more of his backstory, his entrance into the business. So, Andrea, you and I have a big event coming up.
I know. Oh, my goodness. So we are going to the big city of Chicago for an anchor and producer conference. So it's kind of working to make sure that anchors and producers are communicating effectively and working well together, which is important. I think if you have that piece of the puzzle together, your newscast is going to be so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be interesting. I'm surprised they're letting us
But
go.
they're sending us. Yeah, I think it's an honor that we were the two on-air people selected to go. But I'm also wondering, like, is there something we need to?
Are they trying to tell us something?
But you know what? It's always good to learn. I'm glad that they are investing in us.
Me too.
And then, so we're going along with our news director, Robert Thomas, and our evening executive producer, Lindsay.
I
So-
wrote a lengthy email asking to go to this because I really wanted to go. I just enjoy. My thing is, I don't want anyone to have information I don't have. Even if I don't use it, I just want to have everything, every tool in my arsenal that anyone else could have against me.
You'll be ready for battle.
I know. I would do well in the zombie apocalypse.
So we're going to be in Chicago. Yeah, it's going to be 3 days of conferences, and I am looking forward to it. I think we'll learn a lot, and then that may be the subject of next week's podcast. We'll see.
Yeah, and if anybody has any suggestions of things to do in Chicago while we're down there, we might be able to get out and explore a little bit.
We'll at least have dinner one night, probably.
I would hope a little more than that. We get done at like 6 o'clock.
Well, we'll see. I'm an old man.
Same. Woman.
Okay, I was like, wow, we're learning something new on every podcast. But yeah, so that's going to be a good time. We can go have some Chicago style pizza, or as I call it, pizza casserole.
What?
You ever had Chicago style pizza, like actual Chicago style pizza, not old Chicago pizza. It's fine. You can go enjoy it, but it's not like Chicago style is. It's basically like a giant casserole. It's
that thick.
Yeah, it's that thick. It's a giant thing of cheese and sauce and.
I don't think I have then, but I am so excited.
Yeah, I mean they call it Chicago style, but it's not really pizza. You got to eat it with a fork.
Do you?
It's delicious.
Challenge accepted.
Okay, well that's what I want.
I'm gonna make a mess.
A video of you eating a slice of Chicago style pizza with your hands.
Oh, I'll do it. You
Great.
know I will. Come on now.
I believe that you will give it an effort. All right, so we got that to look forward to. I'm sure that'll provide some content for next week.
Oh goodness.
Andrea, what's your favorite thing this week?
Skip me. You first.
Okay, I'll go first. Mine's pretty easy. Season 3 of Stranger Things has started.
Oh.
As a result, we've had to put Dark on the back burner. We'll get to that.
Is that depressing show you said you can only watch a little bit at a time?
The German scary show, yeah. But Stranger Things seems really good so far. I'm very excited about it. We're only 2, maybe 3 episodes in. 2 episodes. But yeah, there you go. I mean, it's not like I have to tell you to go watch it. Everybody's watching it anyway. And then
I'm way behind. I've only seen the first season. I haven't even seen the second season.
You should. It's good. And I also watched Spider-Man Far From Home.
Shocking.
And it was very good.
Was it as good as the animated one that you just raved about?
Into the Spider-Verse? I don't know. I don't think so. Because Into the Spider-Verse
that.
was probably one of the best movies I've ever seen. So
Oh.
I'm trying to open this Hershey's Kiss without it being heard, but I can definitely hear it in my headphones.
You're welcome,
so.
by the way.
I appreciate that. Well, I love almonds, so.
I do too. I got dark and milk chocolate because I couldn't decide which one would be better with almonds, and they're both equally delicious.
I figure you eat on the podcast so often, I might as well return the favor.
Oh, yeah, for sure. What is it called?
ASMR.
Do it.
So here I am, eating Hershey's Kiss.
Gross! Ew.
All right, Andrea, what's your favorite thing?
Ew. Sorry, I just can't with that right now. I
I'm
just
so glad
had
you
it
didn't
and
have the
now I
headphones in
forgot.
because it sounded even weirder in my head.
I just had it and now I forgot. Hold on. I think one of my favorite things is this random new report that's come out that said that millennials are growing an extra bone because we're always looking at our phones.
I don't think that's. I feel like sometimes things get blown out of proportion, but okay.
If it's on Facebook, it's true. And it also was on NPR. Okay? So it's gotta be true.
Do you think you have a phone bone?
Probably. You know I'm always going to the chiropractor. My back hurts all the time.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, think about it. Our generation, like, we didn't have cell phones when we were young. This is a new phenomenon.
I remember when I first started at my first job, I got a pager.
See?
So that we could call. They'd page us if we needed
Our
to call
bones will
station.
be smaller. The younger they are, the larger these bones will be.
I'll be my brittle old phone bone.
Phone bone. Is that
That's
what
it's
it's called?
Yeah, the phone bone.
Oh my gosh. I talked to one of the cab drivers in Alaska about the phone bone, and he was like making fun of his daughter because I don't know, it was just a thing. They judge us, man. They judge us for our excessive phone use. But it's a thing. It's for sure a thing.
Some people are calling it a horn.
Yes.
It's a bone spur.
Yes. I think most people are referring to it as a...
Here we go. Let's just get questions raised about study linking cell phones to bone
Oh,
to
come
bone spurs in the
on.
soul.
Why are you going to break my heart like this? Right here.
It may still be happening. Somebody's just casting doubt on it. It may have had a conflict of interest, an undisclosed business venture selling pillows to help posture. So...
Is it that pillow guy?
My pillow. That's how powerful he is. He's influenced.
He's releasing fake reports on bone spurs.
Yeah, I don't think it's the My Pillow guy. I don't know.
Respect. That's that is creative, I like it. I'm into it. It makes me want to buy a pillow.
Cool.
It worked.
A special pillow for your phone.
Mission accomplished.
Nope.
I'm the most susceptible to any form of online advertising, you know, as seen on TV. Don't let me go down that aisle.
Really?
Definitely not. Definitely
How many copper products
not.
do you own?
Well, I don't cook, so it's none of the cooking stuff.
Well,
that part
that's
I
one of
can
those
get
things
away.
growing. I don't know what it is with. There's a certain generation who believes that like copper is the cure for everything. Growing up, my grandma would always be like, "Oh, I got my copper bracelets. You have to wear a copper penny." And now I see all of this cookware with copper, and it's supposed to help you, or you get like a copper compression thing.
Huh.
And I don't know that it actually
Maybe I
does
should
anything.
try
but-
it. I'm telling you, it's all about.
So I'm talking about how I don't think it works, and you're saying maybe I should try
See,
it.
this is what I'm saying. Okay, so I was at a friend's house the other day, and they had these grapes that they gave me, and they're like, "What does it taste like?" And I felt a lot of pressure. I couldn't figure it
cotton
out.
candy
I was
grapes?
like, "Yes!" And when I first tried them, they tasted just like regular grapes. But as soon as they told me they were cotton candy grapes, I could not taste the
Yeah.
cotton candy. So I think it's all about power of suggestion, and if that works, who cares?
We were at Meyer yesterday, and Mandy literally had a cotton candy grape for the first time.
Did she? I've never
Yeah.
had them into.
I knew it
We
because.
had this could have been happening at the exact same time.
Oh my goodness. We were walking away from the grape aisle, and I see her pop one in her mouth.
She
And-
stole it.
Don't tell anybody. Don't let the Meyer police come at her. And she looks at me. I see her eyes get wide. She goes, "Oh my goodness," because I hadn't even seen where she got it. And
Right.
I looked at her. I go, "Is that a cotton candy grape?" She goes, "Yes." And so then
See?
she was a believer, and I said, "Well, you want to go back and get some?" But we didn't because we had already got some other fruit.
I was glad it went down the way that it did because I just grabbed these grapes, did not see the label, so I didn't know. I was,
Wow.
I didn't know what I was supposed to be tasting, so I got the before and after.
But once you knew, you can't taste anything else.
It's true. It's true.
I'm shook.
Shook, as the kids say. You need to get woke, Victor.
I feel like I feel like I'm woke, and then I'll see something pop out, and it's like, oh, I'm not nearly as woke as I thought.
Are we getting old?
I think that's possible.
I think it's official. I'll turn 30 this year.
Oh my goodness! I'll no longer be able to tell people you're in your late 20s.
You still can.
That's true. I still
I'll
can.
allow it.
You and I have something else in common that I've realized. Nobody can tell how old we are.
Age ambiguous.
Yeah, it
I-
will
it's-
fluctuate both ways. I've had people be like, "Oh, are you like 45?"
Yep.
And I've had people be like, "Oh, you must be in your 20s."
It is a huge strength in this business, honestly, because I can sit next to, I think I could sit next to you, sit next to Bill. My first co-anchor was
A dog. That
well,
dog was a lot younger.
after the dog.
Okay.
Literally, I could sit next to anyone and anything.
Anything.
And,
Here, I'm next to this
but
plum.
he was, pushing his 70s, you
Yeah.
know. So, and I don't think I ever looked that strange or out of place. Obviously I was a little younger than him, but I think I usually just blend in.
Yeah. What's the range? What's the farthest that anybody's ever been off?
Okay, it's rare that people guess me younger than I am.
But it has happened. I've had people think that you were like in your early 20s. Or people,
Really?
Yeah, I've had people be like, "Oh, she just out of school."
Oh, that's so nice, but also probably suggesting that I'm not very good at my job. But yeah, mostly I get older. I've gotten people. Is that proper grammar? Once again, I'm so sorry, Barbara.
You've had people.
You've just made me so nervous. 40s. I've gotten 40s before. Wow. And again, we all know that I'm Alex Walker's mother. So
Still,
who's 28. So
Oh, yeah, we one of our newer reporters, Olivia, she told me that she had listened to our podcast, and she said, "You know what I learned on that podcast? You're old."
What?
And I said, "Oh, wow, glad." She's like, "Yeah, I didn't know. I didn't realize you were old."
Well, you also have a very, I don't know, I like your childlike exuberance, your zest for life. No, but it's such a good thing. What do people say all the time? Like, live life like a child. Just,
Yeah, no.
Like no one's watching.
Well, I had a
That's
head
you,
injury
baby.
when I was younger, and it may have just stunned me to where
You had a what?
a head injury when I was about 9, and so maybe it,
Are you being serious?
kept me from. I did have a head injury when I was about 9, but yeah.
What is this story?
I've never told you this story.
No.
I've got a giant scar on my head that's basically right in
Well,
my
I see it
hairline.
now.
Yeah, you don't really notice it unless you're looking for it, but it's.
I would have had that taken
massive.
care of long ago.
I mean, what am I gonna do? Have like
Yes.
plastic surgery? Have it
Yes.
reduced?
Yes.
You put some makeup on it. You don't need to see it.
Not true.
So that's something for you all to look for. The scar on my head that I didn't think you could see, but apparently
Well, now that
staring at it now.
this is the cotton candy grape thing. Now I can't stop looking at it.
So when I was about 9, and we were really, this is a long out, we were playing in a culvert at a creek, and I think we were in Clark County. I want to say I was somewhere between 7 and 9. I don't know exactly how. And so a bunch of us would lay in the culvert, kind of let water build up, and one of us would run and then jump into the water.
Oh, I love it.
And that water would push everybody else out. So I take off running, and I don't make it all the way down. And I just run head first into this culvert. I crack my skull, it splits open. I had to get dozens of stitches. Yeah.
That explains so much.
It was bad enough that when I went to touch it, I touched my skull. Is that
What does
horrifying?
that feel like?
It was an experience.
Okay, question. You know how like when your teeth, like the enamel starts wearing down, it's so like tender? Was it like that or no?
I mean, I think I was just kind of concussed and out of it.
Yeah, you didn't know.
But yeah, and then I think my mom thought that I was going to die.
Seriously?
I remember on the way to the
Victor!
hospital, they wrapped
there
a
was
towel
so
around my
much
head.
blood.
Oh yeah, I looked down and I was just covered.
Oh, wow.
It was bad.
Oh my gosh, Victor, how have you never told me this story?
I
But
don't know.
honestly, that game sounds so much fun. That sounds like something
It was
we
great.
would have
We had a
done
great
when we were
time.
little.
I think my cousins kept swimming after that. They're like, "Oh, Victor's got to go to the hospital," but
No
we're all right.
biggie, he'll be back.
Yeah, I'll try.
Wow.
I'm trying not to get too graphic because I don't want our listeners to be, appalled.
They probably turned us off long ago. It's fine.
Once Barb and Bill were done.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was intense.
All right. Well, wish us luck, people, as we head to Chicago. We'll try not to make a fool of the station
Yeah.
while we're there. We
Yeah.
won't. We'll make you proud.
Yeah, I think we'll have a good time.
I do too.
All right, everybody. Well, thanks for listening this week to all of our rambling.
Bye.